talk, which I thought was really interesting, was technology does not get adopted because it works, it gets adopted because people use it. It's built for humans.
Right. One of my favorite quotes, I think from Douglas Adams, is that, what is a nerd? A nerd is somebody who uses a telephone to call other people up to talk about telephones. That, usually, the people who make technology aren't necessarily the ones that want to use it. I can deal with a lot on a computer, a lot of annoyances, a lot of crappy buttons, a lot of bad design, because I like computers and I'm used to them, and I breathe it and live it every day. But the regular person just wants technology to get out of their way and let them live their life. And Mark Weiser, who is a researcher at Xerox PARC, he talked about this idea of calm computing. And calm computing is this computing that goes away when it's not needed and springs back to life when you need it. So the idea was that the interface was just invisible, and it would just do its job for you. However technology works, technology works really well when it does the job of technology, and humans work really well when they perform as humans. And so anytime somebody tries to get a computer to act like a human, or get a computer to look like a human, it ends up not working out, because the job of a computer is to compute, and the job of a human is to think. But if you pair them together correctly, you get this very symbiotic relationship, which is how it's always been since the beginning of time. We had tools like hammers that extended the capability of the fist, but we didn't try to think through them like we do now. So the thing is, we've been dealing with these physical extensions of the self for millions of years, and now suddenly, just recently, computers are this mental extension of the self, starting practically with the printing press and anytime people started writing things down. But the speed at which it's happening is faster and faster. So we're seeing all these different changes happen, and this kind of future shock, where we have to deal with all these new interfaces that aren't fully solidified. I mean, the idea of a hammer is a hammer. The interface of a hammer, it's always looked the same. It hasn't changed for thousands of years. It's a hammer. But if you look at a computer from 1950 to today, it looks like the computer is evaporating. It looks like it's getting smaller and smaller and lighter, and now it's in the cloud. Now, computers are in the sky, technically. They're really in a server, and there's a bunch of information going through.
Yeah, sure. So
it's giant change.
Kind of moving towards kind of ubiquitous, invisible computing.
Right.
So I guess that's a lot of your work is sort of interface design and sort of UX. So is there anything that really excites you at the moment, either stuff that you're working on or stuff that you've seen that's kind of pointing to the future?
Yeah, I really like the idea of ambient computing, or the fact that we now suddenly have this giant bunch of sensors in your pocket, right? This phone is just a series of 6 or 7 sensors. It has time, it has speed, it has location, it has has audio, it has video, it has a camera. There are these amazing sensors in this tiny little device in everyone's pockets. And so the things that you can start to do with that is you can say, well, you can figure out where somebody is during a certain time, or there are these amazing things that you can start to do. So, for instance, when I get home after work, the lights automatically turn on in my house, and when I leave the house in the morning, the lights automatically turn off, because it knows that there's a GPS radius around my house, and it knows that my phone is either inside the radius or outside the radius. And when the phone's inside the radius, the lights turn on. And when it's outside the radius, the lights turn off. Now, the thing about this is that this costs $20. It costs an X10 controller and some custom code and a smartphone, technically, which I already have. But even 10 years ago, Intel and all these other giant companies were spending millions of dollars on smart home technology. At PARC Research, they were spending tens of millions of dollars on this kind of ubiquitous computing. And what they didn't realize is that one object was going to be very smart, and all the other things would hook into the smart object. And that was going to be the big difference. And what happened before the internet started, the internet basically came to life, was that everybody was expecting ubiquitous computing would happen. They were expecting chips and everything. They were expecting all of this development to happen. But what they didn't realize is that the internet actually had to show up before you could have ubiquitous computing. And so now that we have the internet, finally we can have ubiquitous computing, because we have these phones and we have these servers and we have these databases, and everything talks to each other. So that's why I'm so excited. This industry has been, 30 to 60 years in the making, and I'm finally alive at a period of time in which I can actually do something. That's why I'm so excited about it.
Yeah, that's really exciting. I kind of I had this thought like a year or so ago that you could just go into an interface and just set up sort of what you were feeling like this week. Like I'm liking Mexican food, I'm liking this type of music, I'm liking, these kinds of links and stuff like that. And the internet just delivers that to you wherever you are. So it orders Mexican food through your fridge to your supermarket. It pops up a recipe. There's an alert to your phone at 7 o'clock that you should start cooking dinner, and the ingredients are already in the fridge and all of that kind of stuff. So, is that far away?
Yeah, well, there's kind of a different perspective on that. The first perspective is, okay, yeah, the computer can do things for you, but if it's too automated, it's obnoxious, right? If it tells me, like, hey, you gotta brush your teeth, I'm like, I don't want to brush my teeth. I don't want to get a text message to brush my teeth. I want to decide whether I'm gonna brush my teeth, So, with the reward system, you get these points for brushing your teeth. Well, that's a little bit more exciting. Maybe you upgrade and you get something else, so you brush your teeth a bunch. Or maybe you get a discount on your health insurance because your health insurance is tied into how much you brush your teeth. As long as it's positive, I think it's okay and not frightening. The other thing is that the idea of whatever you do, like this invisible trail of data that you always have, your location, your interests, how much you spend at the Mexican restaurant, if you went to a Mexican restaurant like 3 days this week, that can build up a profile over time. And I think that the thing is, you don't want to have to enter in all those data points, but you just want to enter the data points just by living your life. And anything that just allows you to enter the data points by living your life is not going to be obnoxious, because it's only obnoxious if you have to deal with a bunch of interfaces. And so anything that reduces an interface is successful as technology.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess that kind of heads into something else I wanted to talk about, which was I was clicking through your Twitter feed as I like to do, and I came across that post on Ideas for Dozens, which covered, I think, the Foo Camp that O'Reilly puts on. I think it was in June, about a month or so ago, and had to read through it. It was fantastic, probably one of the best blog posts I've read in a long time. And they were talking about the idea of, I guess, big data, and everyone's building these platforms to gather and sort and feed data back to us in interesting ways. Do you have any thoughts on that? Like, is big data going to save us?
Absolutely. In terms of thoughts on that, it's more that opportunities are lateral. So, and Tim O'Reilly said this, however many years ago. I think it at least was back to 2005, where he talked about everything has been put into its own place on the web. You've got short thoughts on Twitter, you've got longer thoughts on blogs, you have personal data on Facebook, you've got Q&A on a bunch of different Q&A sites. You've got all of this interesting chemical data, health data, science data, you have traffic data. Nobody needs to build sites for more food reviews or for more, Twitter stuff. Yeah. People need to build things that take advantage of stitching together different databases and making usefulness out of them. And anybody who does that and does, something that has an opportunity laterally to connect things that were not connected before is going to do well, because that it's no longer the era of making a database of one thing. It's about connecting those things. And that's why, ubiquitous computing is right to happen, because ubiquitous computing is just everything talks to each other. And it talks to each other at the right time, at the right place, in a useful way instead of an unuseful way.
I guess one of the